Hello and welcome to the Lithuanian Dream Podcast. My name is Ruta Naujokaite, and today we are welcoming you to our Christmas special episode. Yay! So I invited Gabriele Valodskaite, who is our chief editor, sound editor, to talk about our own experience, our motivation of doing this project. And basically, in this way, to celebrate Christmas with you, with some warm, nice conversation about what drives us. Hello, Gabriela.
Hi, Ruta.
Yeah, so we're in video as well. So if you're listening as well, you can go on YouTube and see our video. If you want to see our faces and amazing Christmas trees, I changed my seating sort of for this special shot. So why I decided to invite Gabriele. So first of all, she's our sound editor, and as well, she has quite a lot of experience of studying and working abroad. She's passionate about EU relations, communications, project management, and she has graduated from one of the top EU universities, Maastricht University, and has worked with several NGOs outside Lithuania, including Hope Foundation and even European Council of Foreign Relations. So and myself, I as well lived outside Lithuania for 10 years and studied in UK, then lived in India for a year with my internship, then I studied in Denmark for my master's, and then moved to Berlin. So quite a lot of traveling and working around, and always felt that there's a gap of Lithuania in my heart. And I always wanted to tell everyone about Lithuania, about how we are interesting, and just say that we are proud and happy to be part of European Union and of this society and have a chance to travel and study abroad. So and this brought us together with Gabriele. So today we said we're going to speak about this sort of identity of Lithuanian living abroad and seeing our country from outside, actually.
So let's start with the big picture stuff, I guess. Ruta, actually, since you lived in Europe, all around Europe, basically, do you feel European?
Yes, I really feel European. I think there are even studies done that Lithuanians are the most European-loving nation in whole EU. And I feel European. I feel very blessed and privileged to have a chance to study abroad. And actually, my parents are not rich, so but I still actually had the opportunities to study abroad. And it's possible for Europeans, to follow their dreams. And I think this is a huge, huge benefit for us. And do you feel European?
Oh, yeah, totally. My whole conscious life, Europe was part of it. And as soon as I was a teenager, I knew that I would like to go and see some new European cultures, share my Lithuanian culture with others. So it was pretty natural for me to go study abroad. And I chose to study European studies as well, basically in the city where Europe was founded, right? So that was a really cool experience. Plus, Europe is all around us. We have friends from all over Europe, all over the continent. We shared so many perspectives with them, right? Basically constantly. And even politically, the European Union affects our life, right? So we have free movement. We can work anywhere in Europe without any problems. And this is magical, right? 100 years ago, who would have thought that a random Lithuanian from a small city could go to Berlin just like that in a blink of an eye and, create a life there. So that's pretty cool. And as you mentioned, there are quite a few studies done on how Europeans feel about Europe and whether they do feel European. So it's funny that you mentioned that Lithuania is one of the most loving European country, because the last Eurobarometer study shows in summer 2020 that Lithuanians do feel European and feel so more than the average European, actually. So that's a really cool point, I think.
Yeah, and I think when I was reading about the study that was done about Vilnius and Vilnius being the happiest city a few years ago, they were saying that it's because people think that everything is getting better. So within 30 years of us regaining independence, the things just got better and we got used to it. And that kind of attitude is really useful, I think, when we think about the future and try to cooperate with different countries. So for sure, Lithuanians are really cheering for EU. And even I remember like talking with friends about how we greet foreigners in Vilnius or other, towns and even villages. People are very, very happy to see people come to Lithuania and just really, really friendly. And people cannot understand why, but simply because we want to be open and want to show how beautiful is Lithuania. So
Yeah, that's true. But actually, when you think about it, what are the European values for you? Do you have any ideas?
yeah, so for me, from international relations part, which I studied, it is about human rights mostly, and it's about the respect to each other. I was just on Facebook yesterday commenting on the fact that somebody released the article that Lithuania has the most gender balanced government from all Eastern EU. And I was just laughing about the fact that there's no such a term as Eastern EU because EU is one, which is true. And, there's Eastern Europe, which is political concept, EU, that is the union. And therefore, we cannot really say that, there's these different separations in a sense. We can talk about economics or, when countries join the union, but they cannot be the exclusion. And I like that about the EU because it's mostly about cooperation, about trying to make things better, cooperate on different levels, so medicine, education, all these things, and strengthen this body economically. So then we could compete with other big markets like US and China. And I think in our lifetime, we will see the results of Lithuanians getting educated and Europeans respecting and really standing up for human values or humanitarian values on a global scale. Yeah. And what do you think, Gabriela? What kind of values EU stands for?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Like the European project sort of started more of an economic one, but then it grew into something that encompasses almost everything in our lives, right? So we talk also about politics, like we elect the European Parliament ourselves. We have an economic union. We have social policies across Europe. And we have those like soft European values as well, as in respect for democracy, as you've mentioned, respect for human rights. And yeah, I think it's really cool that Europe is trying to create this plural society around the continent. And I think that's really important. And this, for me, is like at the core of the project.
So, what do you think are the main challenges then we are facing as on a collective EU level?
Right now, I mean, the economic situation is quite a pressing matter, and COVID escalated it a lot. So yeah, it's like important for the EU states to find a way on how to deal with the actual economic hardships that the pandemic caused. And I think it's really cool that Commission, for example, is putting upfront so many new proposals, and we agreed upon the EU Economic Recovery Fund. So hopefully that's gonna roll out some new positive measurements across Europe to deal with the economic situation. Then I would say it's also climate change. We have to care about the environment, right? There is no escaping that. I mean, it's really nice to see that we have the EU Green Deal now, and it's also connected to the economic recovery. So Europe will try to become more green, more sustainable, and more environmentally friendly in order to deal with the climate change. And I think that's hugely important. I think like those two are most pressing right now, next to, for example, rising populism or radicalism. So like, yeah, we need to learn how to respect each other properly. Ruta, do you have anything to add?
No, not that much. I would just challenge the idea again about the Green Deal. Like, how are we going to do it? This is the biggest question now, I think. Yeah, and the Brexit as well, like the negotiations that are happening, but I think it's sort of minor in the light of the Green Deal, the environmental change, and the fact that we will need to, fix the economy after pandemic.
Yeah. And you worked in the health sector a lot, right? So how do you feel about European health? Like, should Europe have more powers in that sector?
Yeah, so I worked in digital health in Copenhagen for 2.5 years and here in Berlin for a similar amount of time. In my previous company, we worked as a cybersecurity provider. So we worked with quite a lot of different companies and policymakers here in Germany. And it's quite interesting that not like there are different laws in every country for cybersecurity, how the things should be, kept documented and even the information exchanged. So, for instance, there were cases when a certain product was banned in France, and then UK didn't know that it happened. So the people still kept using it for quite a few years, and then they understood themselves after getting a lot of complaints that this product is not safe to use. Actually, it was breast implants, and quite a big story. And in Lithuania as well, we had those breast implants, and there was a story done in IQ magazine, and it wasn't that popular. And for me, it was very interesting. How come we don't care that much about the health and the things that can kill us slowly, in a sense? But yeah, on EU level, there should be changes about information exchange, and this network is being made, but it's very difficult because it requires all actors to be involved. And on safety side, so the regulations should be together, and the data security. So Brandenburg, so it's a region in Germany around Berlin. Brandenburg has the strictest data security laws in Europe, and the same with Austria. And people are very concerned about data security. And in Lithuania, for instance, people are not that concerned about data security and privacy, and GDPR is something that you need to do, but people don't really think about it much. But I think it's very important, cybersecurity, for us in medtech and everywhere, because this is another threat and thing that we will need to deal in the future, because now you can do a lot of harm by just pushing buttons and hacking computers.
Yeah, but do you think that the pandemic will push for more cooperation on that matter?
Yeah, I think it would open a new sort of meeting ground for different actors within the EU. But at the same time, I think the doctors and companies are so preoccupied with this pandemic that a lot of innovation and a lot of projects are being stopped because all the funding is going for the pandemic to treat COVID-19, to make vaccines, to create logistics for vaccination centers. And therefore, we have sort of now things on delay.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I'm quite passionate about medtech, cybersecurity. What are your passions, Gabriele? Can you tell us more about why do you like what you studied, and where do you see yourself later?
I think one of my top passions is EU politics. I like to call myself an EU nerd because I'm always constantly on politico.eu and reading news about European politics and listening to podcasts and everything. So yeah, I studied European studies, so that made sense for me to do. And I've learned a lot about the European history and politics and economics and whatnot, basically. And I've met people from all over the continent. We could share our knowledge, our ideas, our points of view. And for me, it's really important to sort of help bring those different points of view together in order to improve the European project. Because it's not perfect, it's far from perfect, but I believe it's necessary. And I would like to do my part in that in order to improve the project, in order to make the European citizens want to believe in the project more and to be used for the citizens as they need it to be used. And I would like to stay in that field for longer. I'm not sure in what way yet, but we'll see, what the future will bring. But definitely, I would like to stick to Europe.
And how do you see European projects improving? Because I know there are two different sides. Some people say that we should start cooperating on everything and even more, so become more like a federal state.
Yeah.
And other people are saying, like people who made Brexit happen, that this is too much and countries should still make their own decisions and the government. So which model would you vote for more?
I would be more towards the cooperation, not fully a federalist yet. Who knows what the future will bring. But right now, I think it's useful for everyone to cooperate on certain levels and certain spheres. So, for example, I would be totally positive about Europe cooperating more on the health level, especially in times of a pandemic. It is so important to have cooperation among the European states in order to avoid basically, fighting between Europeans for who gets more vaccines or who gets more masks or whatever. We should be working together in order to ensure that every European citizen gets what he or she needs. So yeah, I believe that the project should be improved. It could be improved in more basically transparency, so to say, like there should be more information, that the information should be more accessible. But also, on the other hand, the citizens should be more active as well. They should care more, because I don't think that many Europeans actually actively seek information on the European level. I mean, I'm living, I guess you as well, in this international bubble where international news are really important. And we think about the Europe as a whole quite often, but I think many citizens don't, which is fine. But yeah, I would like for the citizens to be more active as well, not only in European politics, but also in national politics. What do you think?
Yeah, I was just nodding as well. But it's a question, like, as we have seen from US elections, this year was the record year of voter participation in voting. And both sides got the record, numbers of people showing up. So it opens a lot of questions about like politics, and media and how it affects our voting behavior. And if we encourage people, we can encourage people to vote and be active for both good and bad things, or ideas, populist ideas, or some, more progressive ideas. So it's quite interesting that the information nowadays is not one way. It's more like a thing that is connected, and people who know how to communicate well and make people interested to read more, they win this race. And it can be used for both democratic ways or ways to overthrow even the government, maybe.
Yeah. But it is important to have media pluralism, like in any case.
For sure, media pluralism. But at the same time, how do we I even spoke yesterday with my friend about the fact that like there is Russia Today, RT Today, which is a huge media outlet, and some of their activities are from Berlin too, where we live. And it's one of the strongest media outlets that is, sort of challenging the Western ideas, the democracy. And I was reading that even CIA in US started an investigation on them because after social media became popular, RT Today is really good at catching new viewers and doing live streaming. And even during the COVID crisis, these huge protests were streamed in RT Today Facebook page. And it's interesting that they're growing the influence everywhere and investing quite a lot in US. And in Germany, there is this theory called Horseshoe theory, which is that both extreme left and extreme right is supported by Russia because they both agree that Russia is okay. So, and when Navalny was poisoned, so opposition leader Navalny, first the head of extreme left in Germany did his interview and said, we don't think that it was done by Russian government. And a few days after, the head of extreme other side of Germany, so extreme nationalists as well, did the same interview, not the same, but it said the same thing, that we don't think Russia did it. So it's interesting how media and all networks are being used sometimes to sort of challenge the ideas and democratical and the things that, Germany said, we believe that it was done, but then the people would challenge it. So Yeah, and I hope in EU there will be a voice and the media that could challenge disinformation better, because we have the economists, we have political, we have different media outlets, even within Lithuania, that really do great work. But at the same time, myself, I don't see any outlet within the EU or US that would be really talking about propaganda and all these things that are slowly eroding our society, I think.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's also one of the biggest challenges that the EU is facing, right? We could add that to the list.
Yeah. Do you think it's possible? Should we challenge these ideas? In a sense, we're doing it with a podcast that we're like sort of talking about Lithuania from different perspective. But do you think it's possible to challenge such a huge investment from a big country?
It's not easy, but it's definitely necessary to do so, because false information can spread very quickly. And it's a very dangerous game because, as you said, it can activate certain people to act. And some of those acts can be violent, and we should try to stop it in any way possible.
Yeah, and how do we encourage, positive emotions and say, let's cooperate instead of like making people feel some other emotions, negative emotions like anger. And it was quite often used in media to sort of get attention, get clicks, get likes, something that people disagree with. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a really hard question, you know. I mean, being negative is kind of in the nature of people, right? So you have to be careful with that. And also, you have to acknowledge that there are some points of hurt for certain groups of people. You know, like when we talk about globalization, we have to talk about both the winners of the globalization and the losers. And the losers are sometimes really hurt by globalization. And for us, it may be not logical or something. Like, we don't even think, how the hell can you be a loser of a globalization, right? But yeah, we need to acknowledge that some people feel like that. We need to talk to them. We need to try to create a dialogue and, yeah, foster a relationship building. Otherwise, it's going to be lonely.
Yeah, actually, I thought about this a few weeks ago quite deeply, about the fact that now Lithuania sort of shifted from being in periphery of the world center. So in politics, there's international politics, there's this theory about the center and periphery, and that Western Europe was always in the center and it always benefited from periphery. So I don't know, UK from its colonies, the same with the big countries always buy something and then make manufacture inside the country, and therefore all the money stays in the country. But with joining the EU, I think Lithuania sort of shifted more towards the center, which is that we are developing the country and people get education, and we are sort of strengthening our population and at the same time growing the economy of the country. But at the same time, now we have a responsibility to help others and to understand that now we are privileged, actually, that we are privileged, that we can go and live in UK just like that, or to Germany, and nobody asks for visa, and you don't need to go and work somewhere illegally. But there are still a lot of people who are not that privileged.
Yeah, and we need to acknowledge them constantly. Yeah.
So this is one of the things why Lithuania already sort of is in a stronger position. And now even some of our academics are teaching in Oxford and working in a huge think tanks across the world and creating great companies. But yeah, what else do we have to show to you, to the world? What do you think, Gabriela?
I would say that as every other nation, we have so much to share, so much to give, and we should also be open to the world. Basically, we should also allow ourselves to invite others, have some sort of exchange of knowledge, and help each other build further. And I think that in recent years, on the European level, Lithuania really stepped up their game, since it had quite a few opportunities to show leadership. I mainly talk about Ukraine and now Belarus. So basically taking on the leadership on the European level, talking about what's happening actually in Belarus, how can we support them, and what's the overarching issue there. And I think it's really cool that Lithuania sort of found a niche where it can actually be heard, be active, and be actually changing something. I would like to see more of that in the future as well. So like Lithuania shouldn't be afraid of its voice. It shouldn't have the complex anymore of a small country. There are many small countries, but that does not mean anything, right? You should try to, put yourself forward and fight for what's right, basically. Well, not violently, but, fight as in like the ideals and everything. What do you think, Ruta?
Yeah, I was proud of Lithuanians taking a stand, and the Baltic Way commemoration this year of 30 years, and Lithuanians holding hands from Vilnius to Belarusian border.
Yeah.
Even as in Berlin, we organized this protest too with Belarusians. We had 1,000 people to show up, and we hold hands from Kodbusa Tor to Hermannplatz. And it was just powerful feeling of, us being together. And there's something that you cannot put in words, I think, when you feel that people are going through the struggle that our own country did not that long time ago, and that we can be there for them, like Iceland was for us in a sense. And for Lithuanians, Iceland is always about being brave. And now we're a bit of Iceland for Belarus.
Yeah, that action really sent a message all across Europe. A lot of my friends and colleagues were telling me, "Oh, you guys, that's so cool. Like you made the issue heard." And yeah, and then we talked about it, and then the debate went on. It went to the media as well. And yeah, I think it was like a nice solidarity with the Belarusian people. I think it was a really nice symbol.
Yes, and the opposition leader now lives in Vilnius, and we always greeted Belarusians in Vilnius, and there's a university that is basically European Humanitarian University, I think. Mm-hmm. And now Vilnius becomes like a hub for people who are sort of working in the struggle but cannot live in Belarus anymore because of repressions. Mm-hmm. And in Ukraine, our president, Gabriele Valodskaite, she once was the person of the year. And what do you think we still need to learn? Or, what do we need to learn as a society from Europeans? Or what can we learn from Europeans?
Well, as I've mentioned, don't be afraid of your own voice. You are part of Europe, so you have the same rights as Germany or France to say what you think, right? And you have the same rights to cooperate with other countries on various different matters, and you should do so. And you should do so more often, because that's one chance to grow. So I think that would be the main thing for me. I would also say that Lithuanian society as a whole could also be a bit more open towards other people, other ideas, and just be slightly more progressive, even more. I think like we're on the right track, but let's continue.
Even more, a little bit more, every day, a little more.
Baby steps.
One of my friends was telling me a story. Like she went to Vilnius with her boyfriend, and he is German, but he is black. So like the skin color is different. Yeah. And in Lithuania, we are hugely afraid of racism, I think, as well. Like this is something that we are concerned about. And she said that it was very interesting because people would stop them in a street and ask, how is he feeling in Lithuania? Oh. And if everything is okay, does he like the country? And she found it really weird and funny because like it's a reverse sort of, people really want to be nice, but like you cannot just stop person on the street and just ask.
Yeah, that's a bit weird.
And with my own boyfriend, this summer, we traveled a bit. So we went to Klaipėda, to Nida, and he's American, but he's like white. So you cannot see the difference. But still, I was like, oh my God, maybe he's going to get into trouble by accident. And then I need to translate. Maybe people will get drunk and something will happen. And I'm just like terrified. But it's just like, why am I feeling this? I shouldn't feel these feelings, but it's just unknown as well for personally. Yeah, but we have a lot of great examples of people, foreigners, who actually moved to Lithuania. And we had an interview with the head of work in Lithuania, and she was telling that every year more and more people come and work in our country. And slowly we have the community of people forming. And a lot of people from India, Italy, and Belarusians, Ukrainians are coming to Lithuania. So Lithuania itself is changing. And the identity, I think, as well, of being Lithuanian is being enriched by the diversity.
Yeah, totally. I mean, the more diversity we have, I think the better, you know. Let's not be afraid of the rest of the world. Nothing to be afraid of.
Yeah, nothing to be afraid of. And I think even our parents' generation, they're not that afraid. They just don't understand sometimes, and then they afraid to ask the question because, like, if you're gonna say a wrong word, then it's gonna be just like, "Mom, why did you just said that?" And it's like the conversation stops.
Yeah, that's another topic for another podcast, you know, the differences between generations.
Yeah, so as you were born after Lithuania regained the independence, what do you think is the role of our generation then?
That kind of flows from the last answer. I think we are responsible to build a Lithuania that is welcoming, that is progressive, and sort of like a hub for different cultures to meet and exchange ideas and build a nice place to live in. And I think we should continue the hard work that was laid by generations before us. We shouldn't ever forget the struggles that we had to go through to actually be independent, and we should always pressure those. And we should celebrate that and then try to make it as good as possible. Yeah, we should respect human rights. We should respect democracy. We should spread those words to the ones who want to listen, basically. And to help others reach that as well. So mainly safeguarding and extending what we are already doing, just being more open, more progressive, and more socially responsible.
Yeah, I agree. And I think what I'm learning personally as well is like being open and sharing, because we are a small country and overall Europeans too. So creating platforms and bridges between Lithuania and Germany, or the place that people live and the communities that they live in, and just bridging it and sharing the knowledge, sharing the expertise, and strengthening the connection between each other. Because this is that I think at the end of the day matters the most.
Yeah, totally. So why would you say it's important to put Lithuania on this international discourse?
So I think it's important because there's nothing, or there is information, but that information is very basic. And I think by speaking and telling the things that we are proud of in Lithuania, the things that we cherish, we show how unique we are, and we put this in a time capsule, in a sense, that the upcoming generations will see. Because even my parents, they know a lot of things, but for instance, it wasn't written. My mom loves talking with random people, like older people in Vilnius. So like with Staraver, so people who from old believers, for instance, she have a few friends, old ladies, and she would tell me the stories about their culture, about the things that they saw the world in that way, or see the world. And a lot of stories that were not written and will not be written. And I think this is something that needs to be written. We're not doing it here, but we're doing it on sort of at least the basics that should be communicated to English-speaking audience about Lithuania, how we see ourselves now. And in this way, people can understand us better. And it's not the forest in the map. For the coming generations too, that our generation was doing something, thinking about these things and having these conversations, and for the foreigners as well. So it's not just for others, it's more as well for ourselves in the future. And it's important because in this way, we know where we stand at, and things will change. But
that's a really nice thought. That's like a really, really lovely thought. And I find it really cool that you started this podcast to actually do exactly what you just told you would like to do. And I think it's a really nice way to connect people. And it's always nice to hear the feedback from others saying, "Oh yeah, actually that's a nice topic. You know, I never would have thought that Lithuania is this or that, or you can do this or that in Lithuania." And that's really cool. So I'm really happy that you actually invited me to join your team. So I'm really happy that I can sort of participate in this whole cultural exchange.
I'm very happy that you joined. Yeah, we met through our Big Brother and before a bit as well. But I really enjoyed, talking with you. And I saw that you were so passionate about the subject. You already worked with the podcasting before. So I was just like, wow, this is perfect match. I wonder if she would like to join.
It's a match.
I sometimes wonder as well if it, from marketing perspective, everything should answer the need, like the painful need of something. Mm-hmm. And I'm still wondering if it's like with a podcast, what is the painful need? Painful need to have this information, to understand ourselves better, or even like to understand somebody would like to know Lithuania better, or their spouse better who's from Lithuania. I think it helps.
Yeah, I think so too. But followers, please let us know. What do you think?
Yeah. What kind of need can this information and sort of platform serve more, maybe? And I often feel that we create a lot of platforms in Lithuania as well, but these platforms are not communicated that much about, and they're like duplication between things that we do. And like constantly I'm trying to challenge my own perception of like cooperation and sort of saying, hey, would you like us to promote it or put it in a blog post? So then we have a list and people can find it in one list. Because and this is a dream, I think, for the future, is to like have different lists of things, like foundations in Lithuania, like, I don't know, useful links if you travel to Lithuania, because there's like, I saw even the app now that you can use when you travel to Lithuania, and you say, okay, I want a 3 hours hiking trip around this area, and it shows you like different options, and it's for free. So there's a lot happening, but we just don't have one place where we can see all of this.
Yeah. All right. So speaking about dreams, right? Ruta, what's your dream for the future of Lithuania?
I love how we like wrote down the questions and like unconsciously we're following them, like by just the discussion, not really looking at it, but like just the generation, how the dream. My dream is that actually I think that Lithuania has a huge potential and a lot of great people. And there should be a better cooperation in doing country strategy, communication strategy. And it should be done well, because this is something that really matters to Lithuania and the future of Lithuania. And I think it's already done quite well, but there can be improvements and needs to be a better dialogue about it. So I would say one concrete dream that is achievable, OKR from business perspective. So that would be a good communication strategy involving everyone. And because, we have great specialists and that really want to get involved, and a lot of great brains that can help. And what is about you? What is your dream for Lithuania?
I think it kind of flows from the whole discussion that we just had. I would like to see Lithuania continue to be more open, more progressive, and to actually see that country is becoming sort of a multicultural hub where diversity is celebrated, where actually people are proud to be Lithuanians, but without this ultra-nationalistic point in that, just like being happy to share their own culture and to actually see other cultures and have this exchange and just sort of create a world where people like to live. I think that's like a very big picture dream. But I would just like to see Lithuania that's moving forward and just creating a nicer space for all of us.
Yes, let's be the change. Let's create these spaces. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this conversation. And it's a perfect Christmas topic for our podcast.
And thank you for inviting me, Ruta. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, and thank you for all the work you do with the editing of our episodes, because the quality increased hugely. We get the feedback that, when I show the podcast to people, then they say, wow, this is like, the quality is so good.
Happy to help.
This is awesome. And thank you for everything. And I hope upcoming year will be even more interesting and we will discover more things about Lithuania together. And we totally gonna do another conversation. I don't know after how many episodes. It will totally gonna happen.
Yeah, cheers to that.
Cheers to that.